Welcome to the latest World Cup date, June 28th. What a night in Paris. The United States gets through in the World Cup quarterfinal against the hosts. 2-1. They had to sweat it out a little bit at the end, but 2 goals from Megan Rapinoe sends the United States into a semifinal matchup on July 2nd against England. Jason Longshore, Kelly Francis here today to break everything down. Jess is already preparing her scouting reports and everything for Tuesday, so she's a little busy at the moment. And maybe fighting Twitter trolls as well, because there's going to be a lot of talk ahead of Tuesday with U.S. and England. And I found the coolest thing, Kelly, that I was looking at. I knew there was stuff around, like, July 4th, we know, is Independence Day. We know everything around that. But I knew, like, history of that era. I knew there was something about July 2nd, so I had to go back and look. And it was July 2nd that the Continental Congress actually declared their independence. The document was written on July 4th, and then it was signed later. But it was July 2nd that the Continental Congress said, no more.
I have chills, straight chills. Gosh, what a great talking point that hopefully will be. I mean, I know commentators obviously do a lot of research with fun facts, things like that when they're doing their broadcast, but what a great fact to bring up during that game. And yeah, we're looking at, we obviously knew going into this game, like the France versus USA game was going to be a real contentious headbutter, right? A nail biter, because this is what you expected to see these two nations in the final, right? And so to get it in the quarterfinals felt a little strange that it wasn't the final, but to now get to see a USA versus England game, and honestly, 2 teams right now who are really hot. And it's not like one team has cooled off a bit. Both teams are going in with really good wins against really good teams, and it's going to be a battle. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be as intense as this match got at times. I think Tuesday is going to be a whole nother level. I honestly don't think England comes in afraid of the United States at all on Tuesday. I think France maybe did a little bit in some ways. I mean, their coach, Diacre, after the match said the USA team you play in real competition isn't the same one you play in a friendly. Some of the comments before the match yesterday as well were just a little strange and a little bit maybe just uncertain. And I thought that came out on the field. France did not look like they did before the tournament. They didn't look that confident. It looked like the moment was too big for them at times.
Yeah, I've had this talk where I've discussed how it feels like the pressure of this nation's expectation really got to them, that they really started feeling like they've got something they have to deliver. Being on home soil, being the darlings of the tournament and the expected winners from a lot of people, including you and I, before this tournament started. And yeah, it feels like it got to them. And unfortunately, watching this game, it feels like the moment didn't hit them until Renard scored. And then at that point in time, they woke up and they realized, we're playing the United States. And if we lose this game, we're not going through. And to see a team as qualified and talented and just utterly brilliant as this team is, and to see them only wake up in the, what was it, the 50-something minute that Renard scored is really disappointing. I've loved this team. I still love this team, meaning France. They're incredible players individually. They're incredible players together as a unit, but they didn't show up for this tournament. And being on home soil, that's something that you just can't allow happen.
I think this was their best night in the tournament, but it wasn't that much better than the opening match against South Korea, and they really took steps back after that. Brazil was better than the rest of the group stage, but this one, you start out so flat. And look, the U.S. gets their first goal off of a quick throw-in by Megan Rapinoe. And, I mean, you have to credit Rapinoe for pushing the pace there. And Diacre, the manager for France, did say that was something that she felt like they had scouted. And we've seen it before in matches where teams are slow to get their wits about them on a restart. Sometimes they just lose that minute of focus. Rapinoe takes the throw very quick, long down to Morgan, and Morgan earns the free kick that Rapinoe just whips in low to the near post, looking for Julie Ertz, looking for a deflection. Nobody touches it. I don't think the goalkeeper, a lot of people said it was a bad goalkeeper error. I think she was screened at the end of it and was expecting a deflection that never came. No matter what, the ball's in the back of the net and the U.S. has that early lead, and that just changes everything.
It really does. And to honestly concede at, the 5th minute of the game is not something that you want to see, especially not on a team that's expected to win. And it felt like Rapinoe just was exploiting the almost snail-like pace of the back line for the French national team today. And as good as Renard is and as incredible as she is as a player, it just felt like her legs got to her throughout the tournament. And maybe you should take credit to Brazil for sort of making those legs a bit heavier than they've been most of the tournament. But on a goal like that, that's a lack of awareness by defense. It's a lack of speed by defense. It's just to concede that early again. A team like this, it shouldn't have happened. It really shouldn't have happened.
No, you can't give up that early goal because everything is different from that stage on. The rest of the half, France didn't have a shot on goal. They had 6 shots in the first half, but nothing on target. Alyssa Nair had really little to do in the first half. And then you get to halftime and you come out, and it's something that I think the U.S. has done really well in this tournament. They've started halves really strongly. They came out with a couple of shots quickly to open the second half. Sam Mewis with the first one. Bulati makes the save, pushes it away. Tobin Heath just runs past 2 defenders for a loose ball in the 18. No idea how that happens. And then Bulati makes a second save. It felt like it was after that France started to get going a little bit. It's still 1-0. But France starts creating some chances. Les Sommet gets a good shot. Gauvin is starting to get in the game a little bit. But it's the U.S. who finds that second goal. France was building in the second half, and the U.S. went to a 5-4-1 or 5-2-2-1, however you put it. But they went more defensive before they got the second goal. Julie Ertz dropped to the back line. Lindsey Horan came into the match in midfield for Rose Lavelle. And it was after that you get that second goal. And we'll talk about Crystal Dunn in a minute because she was the player of the match for me. But Alex Morgan has not been credited enough here. Morgan took a beating against Spain. Morgan earned the free kick that led to the first goal, and her pass created the second goal, created the opportunity for Tobin Heath down the right. I thought Alex Morgan put in one of the more impressive performances, beat up because she was still feeling that Spain match. It was incredibly impressive for Alex Morgan today. And I know that you and Jess talked about it, and it's something that I also talked to you off air, but we all were under this impression that we thought that the best thing to do for somebody like Morgan, who did, take a beating against Spain, was for her to not start. Start Carly Lloyd, get the fresh legs, get that attack going. And when I saw Morgan on the lineup today, I thought, maybe Jill Ellis made a mistake with that. She's running with tired legs. She's took a lot of knocks, but once again, Alex Morgan, being the absolute class player she is, led her team, and she did a fantastic job. And led her foul led to the first goal, and then her pass led to the second. It's just, that's what you look for in a player in tournaments like this. And she did an absolutely amazing job. And one thing I will say about the tactics of the U.S. to come out all guns blazing at the start of the game and at the start of the half, in some ways, you're having this French team go back into the locker room, regroup,
talk about a strategy, figure out how they're going to now take the game back from the United States and how they press more and how they really get their momentum back into the game. And then you're going against a USA side that has decided to come out guns blazing like they did at the start of the match. Some ways you're not really expecting that. And so you're sort of taken on the back foot again for the second time. And it's just good tactics. It really is. But yeah, let's talk about Crystal Dunn.
Crystal Dunn. A lot of questions. And hey, I'll put my hand up about Morgan. I was wrong. I thought she needed the day off or at least to come off the bench. Nope. Same. She didn't. She was a beast up top and doing a lot of the dirty work for the U.S. to keep things moving forward.
And
Crystal Dunn,
that's why she's the star she is. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's why this team is literally built full of stars. And that's why when they talk about the depth of the squad is that you get players like Morgan who are taking away starting positions from Carly Lloyd. Of all players, you're looking at the two of them, and as we saw when they subbed on, they can obviously play together, but you're just looking at the depth of this team and the professionalism of the team and the leadership of every individual player, and it's just really astonishing.
Sometimes you get into these sorts of games, and you have to throw tactics somewhat out the window. You throw technique somewhat out the window, and you just survive on guts. And Crystal Dunn is not a left back. She's an attacking player. She's one of the best attacking players in the NWSL. She plays left back for the United States. It's still a little baffling at times that's where you get her on the field, but it allows you to get another attacking player, and it allows Crystal Dunn to overlap in some games. Not as much today. Crystal Dunn had a lot of defensive work to do, a whole lot of defensive work. And was it always perfect? Nope, it wasn't. But Crystal Dunn has not been beaten on that side of the field in this whole tournament that's led to a goal. And she held up her end of the bargain today, relentless. When she was beaten, she would somehow recover and make a play. Crystal Dunn was the player of the match for me.
Yeah, she was incredible. I mean, for a player who doesn't naturally play in that position during league play, to understand what's needed of her on a national team, to accept that responsibility and play in a position that, maybe she's not she's not favoring, is just shows to her perseverance. It shows to her professionalism. It speaks again to the whole professionalism of the squad, but she was incredible. She's gone against a lot of really incredible wing players, and she's been able to slot them down. And it just felt like if France was going to try and attack on that side of the field, they were going to have issues. And you saw through a large portion of the match coming into that second half where France got their speed and they got their momentum back, they really weren't able to go through her. And it felt like every time they came against Crystal, it was a brick wall. She was able to dispossess. She was able to move the USA forward. Just incredible game. I mean, there was a lot of players in this game that really impressed me, but I think for sure Crystal Dunn, I'm agreeing with you, player of the match.
Yeah, I mean, she's going up against one of the best wingers in the world, and Diani, and the second half, it felt like France just stopped playing through that side and started working the other side of the field more, because even when they thought they beat Dunn, they didn't beat Dunn. She was able to recover. It was really amazing stuff.
That's where her speed comes in, and that's maybe where Jill saw that weakness on that side and was like, we need somebody who maybe isn't normally playing in the spot, but has the speed, has the soccer knowledge to play the spot, and then also can cut back and come back defensively. And it's a good move.
It's working. And right now, that's what you're rolling with the rest of this tournament. You've got 2 games left if you keep moving on. Wendy Renard gets the goal in the 81st on a set piece. Not exactly a surprise. Alyssa Nair made a couple of nice saves before that. Nothing she can do on this set piece. Wendy Renard wide open, clean header. She's scoring that the majority of the time. So 2-1, you get a little worried because you're starting to hear the crowd going. You start to see France pick up that intensity. It's a pretty wild next few minutes, but you make the substitutions. Carly Lloyd came on for Sam Mewis, which turned some heads, but Carly Lloyd made a couple of interceptions late. Kristen Press came on for Megan Rapinoe. And after that one especially, it felt like the U.S. was so comfortable in stoppage time, just seeing the game out, just managing the clock, just letting the minutes tick by and seeing the game out and not really being tested.
Yeah, there have been times where I've been questionable about the USA's defense. And there have been times in friendlies where it's almost like the U.S. have fallen asleep. So, yeah, I was worried in this match that the U.S. would fall asleep. But at the same time, as everybody knows, I was also rooting for France to equalize this. And I'm sure we'll talk about this. There was a moment in which during run of play, I thought was a clear handball. And I was sort of confused why it didn't go to review. And then, you and I had talked about this a little bit, but it just feels like, understandably, I see how the handball was within the silhouette of her body, but it still feels like this is a judgment call made by the referee on the field. And as much as we want to say that the rules have been somewhat hard to interpret, at what point in time do you realize that this call maybe wouldn't have been made in another game leading up to this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit. That part I'm not 100% sure on because, look, IFAB changed the laws of the game when it came to handballs. They're trying to define it better, and in some ways they're taking some of the judgment away from it. But I will read what I feel like I should just have this page up at my desk at all times. It's an article
Print it out, put it on your wall.
I should. IFAB technical director David Elleray, when he explained the changes in these laws back in March as the rules were being passed and people were starting to talk about it, the handball part of it, I thought he gave a really good explanation. He said, we've changed it to say the body has a certain silhouette. If the arms are extended beyond that silhouette, then the body is being made unnaturally bigger, with the purpose of it being a bigger barrier to the opponent or the ball. Players should be allowed to have their arms by their side because it's their natural silhouette. And when you look back at this on replay, and it was checked because any possible penalty situation is going to be checked, Kelly O'Hara's arms are by her side. I think what was maybe throwing it off a little bit is you normally see situations where defenders are either putting their arms behind them or they're putting their arms in front of them or right up against their sides. But Kelly O'Hara's arms were just straight down. I mean, it was straight down from her shoulder. And she actually spoke to the media afterwards, and she said, it wasn't like I was making my body big or anything. You never know, though, because it's a little sketchy sometimes. But thankfully, they called it the right way. According to the way that they wrote the new law and the way that they are, I think, asking referees to interpret it, it wasn't a handball.
Okay, well, I just feel like at some point in time during the tournament to the run-up, this would have been reviewed, at least.
But that's the difference.
On-field.
And that's the key difference. And I think this is something that with VAR we always get into. It was checked, which is a review. It's just not going to the on-field. So I'm trying to remember the exact logistics of how this went down on the field. The play continued for a little bit, and then there was a throw for France. And at that point, you could see the referee talking to the French player who was going to make the throw-in. It appeared she was telling her, no, we're playing. Let's go. Because I think it was probably being asked for at that point. I'm going to hold up the throw so you can go take a look. I'm assuming by that stage, if your VAR has gotten the replay, has seen the angle, and has said there's nothing clear and obvious about overturning this judgment call, then you don't send it down to an on-field review. And that's where I think as soccer fans and supporters, we really get stuck sometimes, because this happened with the Atlanta United match too, where we don't want VAR to be involved in every single judgment call. We don't want them to re-referee the game, as people have said all summer. But then sometimes we do, and you can't have it both ways, because this is a judgment call, just like the trip in Toronto was a judgment call. And do we want referees to have to go look at every judgment call for a second time? I don't think we do, and I don't think that's the intention. This one, by the law, is really clear. Her arms are by her side. So if it was missed by other games, that doesn't mean that this one should be reviewed, because I still don't think it's going to be called a penalty. I don't think there was anything in the replays that would change the referee's opinion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It did this whole tournament with the new ruling, with the way that things have been handled. There's been so many calls that at times felt questionable, at times felt completely right. So when you're having these calls that on the field have been judgment calls, or if they haven't been judgment calls, they've been called after, and some of it feels a little strange. And we're just trying, I think, as a viewing public, to understand what the new rules are and what a silhouette means and what entirely that means with a movement of a body, and how if a body's in motion but within the silhouette, like, it just feels like there's a lot of scenarios that lead to certain things, and it's at that point that we as a viewing public just want to be able to see what's on screen and collectively agree that it's not a handball. But at the same time, I feel like that's not a future that's ever possible, of course, because then you're always going to have fans that, even if it was clearly not a handball, will still call it a handball and things of that nature. But I think for me, it was just the clarity of understanding why this wasn't reviewed in association with what the laws say and how it could have been talked about on field.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I think the biggest thing to understand is just that it's always going to be looked at, even if the center referee doesn't look at it. It's any situation like this, you've got people checking it. And in this one, you see some of the still shots that have made their way to Twitter. O'Hara's arm is straight down from her shoulder. That's what the new law and the new rewrite is specifically wanting to see defenders do. They don't want to see them have to put their arms behind their back. And the other thing that factors into this as well is it's from a very short distance away. There's no reaction time for O'Hara to do anything different. So it meets all those standards, and there's nothing in looking at the video, which we've talked about it so many times in this tournament. The video takes the context away, and there's nothing in the video here that would, I think, change the referee's judgment. It would only take context away if you put it in a slow-mo or whatever reason. Then you're not judging, well, it's from a very short distance and it's a very hard cross, right at her arm. She has no time to do anything differently, and she didn't move her arm out to make it bigger. Her arm was just there. Now, I hope it gets called consistently, period, because I think this is exactly what they want to allow. But it was different than Kumagai's from Japan. I think a lot of people have tried to compare it to that, and Kumagai's arm was not straight down from her shoulder. It was out. Now, the distance was short, and that would have been the discussion point. But this one, it's a short distance, and her arm is straight down. I don't really know what she could have done differently.
Right, but if Kumagai is in a natural motion where her arm was already bent, then that's not something that she can't correct with a short distance of the way that ball was hit to straighten her arm.
That would have been the discussion with Kumagai, would have been the distance. I think the arm was extended away from her body. That part, okay. But the short distance would have been what you could have had the discussion about. Both are snap judgment calls. And both are the kind of snap judgment calls that, unless the referee is screened, and when you look at the replay here, the referee's pretty close on the Kelly O'Hara one. It's not like she's far away. I don't think she's screened. I don't think her view is blocked by anything. If the referee's screened, then it's a different conversation. You got to go look at the video because you couldn't see it in live action. But if you get a good look, it's kind of what we don't want VAR to get involved in. And it's that consistency of the high bar for the video assistant referee to not re-referee a game. It's a balance. And I think, as we saw last summer in the Men's World Cup, as you get later in the tournament, the VARs, one, I think it's better VARs because you're starting to see a smaller group get these games. And two, I think they are kind of feeling like, you know what, we want to have less involvement here. We don't want to decide a World Cup match. We want to only be involved if we absolutely have to be. So it's a tough balance. I hope you get VARs that are consistent across the board and are at a high level across the board. It does take some time.
Yeah, it will take some time also, I guess, for not only myself, but I guess the viewing public and just people in general to understand how the new rules process and what all goes into a call.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of things.
It's that, and I think it's the logistics of VAR and what VAR is there to do, because I think sometimes VAR is seen as a magical, complete, like, sorcerer who can fix everything, and not really. It's no. Not. That's not the idea. It's sometimes you're going to have bad calls.
Some people don't like that sorcerer. I can tell you that right now.
Well, be careful what you ask for, because I think we've seen this in other sports where you have replay come in and it's very limited. And in our game, I think it's maybe it's not as limited as they could have made it, but do we want to open it up to more? Do we want somebody to come in and buzz the referee every time and say, you missed that one. You got it wrong. Let's go look at the replay and let's fix it. Man, games are going to take forever.
Forever. Then we end up becoming like baseball. So I'm sorry if anybody's listening to this, but baseball takes forever.
Well, and here's the other thing, too, is that if you want to go back and talk about other decisions, the possible third goal for the United States that Tobin Heath scored, where Crystal Dunn was judged to be offside, they showed a very, very quick angle of it. And the line is basically on top of itself as to whether Crystal Dunn was a big toe offside. Maybe?
Yeah, can we talk about that? Because when I saw it, I thought, oh, she's good. She's fine. I mean, if she was offside, maybe the angle that I was viewing was a bad angle, and clearly they obviously had another angle that made it more definitive of a clear and obvious offside. But if we're
okay,
now that minuscule of a scale of when somebody's
oh boy, here we go. We go.
Oh gosh.
One, offside doesn't fall under the clear and obvious part, because you have at this tournament, they've got the technology to get down to that centimeter, whatever, offside, and it is exact, and it is yes or no. So by the nature of that, if it's wrong, it's clearly and obviously wrong, because they can show you that it's clearly and obviously wrong. Now, when they flashed the video in the match, it looked like Crystal Dunn was on the same line. Like, they show the lines of where the attacker's foot is and where the defender's foot is. But I'm looking at a screenshot now that Fox Soccer posted, and you can tell that there is a red line and there is a blue line. They are just very, very, very close together. But that doesn't matter. Offside is a yes or no, flat out. And at the World Cup, they have technology to be able to give you that. Now, in MLS and in other leagues, they might not have that level of technology. And then you are looking for specific angles to show definitively yes, definitively no. But here, even if it's a centimeter, it's offside. It is or it isn't.
I feel like that's really disadvantageous to a defender who's just naturally faster. Or not a defender, but a striker is naturally faster. But I understand.
Yeah, it's just delaying your run. It's just knowing that, if you think you're on, if you think you're even, if you're that fast, take that extra step to hold your position just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It's a tricky situation, but that's one that is a little different, because it's just a yes or a no. It's not a judgment.
It's like goal line technology.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that was our VAR sequence of the show. We haven't had one of those in a while, so it's good. We get our referees very, very happy about this. Let's see. So you look at the stats from this match. France had the possession. They had 61% of the possession. U.S. had 39. France ended up with 20 shots, 5 on target, but none of those in the first half. It was all late. U.S. was really super efficient. 10 shots, 8 on target. And it's I mean, it's a very strong performance from the United States. Something that I want to end our discussion on this match with. Local youth coach and director Alex Palma talked about this early in the second half. I think it was after the U.S. scored the second goal. And he had a really good point. I'm just going to read his thing on Instagram that he posted. USA again playing 160 miles an hour, and it doesn't have to be good football at that incredible pace. You just need to have athleticism, willpower, mental toughness, and speed in your team, and you can overpower any opponent. Impressive performance. I have not seen a team who can match that tempo displayed by the girls who represent the Stars and Stripes. That is the kind of the great equalizer here. And we've talked about the U.S. and technical skill maybe not being where it used to be, but when you can play fast and make some mistakes, but make the opponent make more mistakes, and I think they did that to France today. France wasn't comfortable playing that fast.
They did. Yeah, no, France didn't want to play at that speed, and you could tell that when the U.S. came up and started playing at that pace, and France just looked like they were running that there was a tortoise in the hare race. And at this point in time, it's the tortoise that really had the disadvantage in the game, because when you're playing a game of soccer, you do not want to be the tortoise, you want to be the hare. So it felt like this battle against a team who was just ready to go out, and even if they were going to make some errors in the style of play or in possession, as we can see clearly with the stats, you also have a team that's also really good at dispossessing, as we saw your striker Carly Lloyd, who dispossessed, in the late in the half, and around close to the 90th minute, that she just absolutely dispossessed France when they were having a lot of momentum at that point in time. You're seeing a team that has the ability to come at you, and as a defender, you kind of get backtracked, and you just sort of are lost for a second, and you could see France just didn't know how to react.
No, they just were not comfortable playing as fast as the U.S. was making them play, and that's something that I think the U.S. has in their bag that they can go to when maybe things aren't completely comfortable, maybe when the opponent's making things difficult. Just speed up the play. When you have Megan Rapinoe and Tobin Heath up top and Alex Morgan who can hold the ball up and bring players in, you can kind of make something out of nothing. And I thought they did that at times tonight. They're going to have to do a lot of that when they face England, because if there's a team that can match them for tempo, I think England is a team who can. And I think England will come in a little more rested than the United States as well. Tuesday is going to be craziness. I think even more crazy than today was. And this was the most hyped up match that I can remember.
Yeah, it is going to be crazy. I think the only point I would want to make as far as a team that has the ability to do that to the U.S., as we saw, was Spain. Spain came in and completely just felt like at times took the feet from underneath the U.S. and really just went at them with speed and ability to hold on to the ball and possession play. So England is not Spain. Obviously, they don't play the same style. They don't play the same way. But you are looking at a really quick team, and a team who's able to dispossess you in the midfield and completely make a counter off of that. And as we saw yesterday, England is not going to be a joke. Really not going to be a joke. And the U.S. have to hold their defensive line like they did against France. They need to come out speed on speed. And I think if we're looking at that match, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it's a high-scoring game. With two teams like this that have the speed and they have the ability to connect and be dangerous, I think we're looking maybe at a 2 goals each, maybe, if not more.
It's possible. England is a team that defensively, they've only given up 1 goal in the tournament, and it was late in the match against Scotland where England had a 2-0 lead. They give up the goal in the 79th minute in game 1, and they haven't conceded since. They had 2 pretty comfortable games in the knockout round. The U.S. had the battle with Spain. They had a battle here. They gave up a goal in each game, but it didn't really seem to faze them either way. They still played their game. They didn't seem under pressure against Spain to where they were going to wilt. It was just a tough match. Today they get the 2-0 lead. They give up the goal late. Couple minutes of shakiness where you give up the goal and you're just readjusting, and then you see the game out. It's a situation that Jill Ellis talked about where France doesn't deal with this kind of pressure all the time, and the U.S. does. They're used to it. They're comfortable. England is a team that has been to a semifinal before. They had the heartbreak in 2015 on the own goal late. I think they're fearless. So maybe they haven't been in this kind of pressure situation, but I don't think they necessarily care. So this could be a barn burner on Tuesday. I can't wait for it, to be honest. I think as good as U.S.-France was at times, and it was super intense, from a pace, from a tempo, from just the chaos factor, I think U.S.-England could be one of the best women's matches that we've ever seen.
It's like looking at a really good boxing heavyweight match.
Yes.
And realizing that the whole arena is going to be sold out, and it's going to be a showdown. And it's going to be a showdown until the last minute. This is going to be a game where they are – it sucks that this is the road that leads to the final for both of these teams. But if we're talking about a game that's really going to – that you are going to give your all to, but really going to take a lot out of you, we're looking at that game on Tuesday. And if we thought that this match here, France versus USA, was going to be a good match, and we all did, and it did end up being a good match.
It was, yeah. I lived up
the
to
game
it.
The game on Tuesday is going to be a whole other level, and that's what you want to see. That's what we wanted to see in this World Cup, is games like this, because it's fully understanding, and I'm hoping a lot of American fans are understanding that the U.S. have real competition, and that even if they do in this tournament winning the whole thing again, you're really looking at a lot of dangerous threats in that next World Cup, if not in further international friendlies and going into the Olympics. It's going to be really exciting.
100%. There are a number of teams that are stepping up to this level. I saw a lot of conversation on Twitter about, why is the U.S. sitting back and defending at this stage? They should be dominant. And it's like, not anymore. Not against a team like France. Not against a team like England. Not against teams that they could see from the other side of the bracket. And we will find out the other semifinal by tomorrow afternoon. Germany feels like the favorite on the other side of the bracket. They get Sweden in the afternoon match. Sweden came in second in the United States group. They rested a bunch of players against the United States. They have gotten to this quarterfinal against Germany by being solid, by being very organized, not really being all that spectacular. I feel like Germany is just at another level from Sweden, and it's going to take almost a perfect match from the Swedes to take this one even to extra time.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that. I feel like if any of these games in the semifinals is sort of clear-cut on who's going to come out victorious, it feels like it's going to be this one.
Yeah, it just feels like Germany is on a collision course to get to that final, but who they could face in the semifinal is quite interesting. Two teams that I've really enjoyed watching for completely different ways in the 9 o'clock match in the morning. Italy and the Netherlands. Italy has been so good on the counter, so organized defensively, just so scrappy, and we haven't seen them at this stage of the tournament ever in their history, and we haven't seen them in the World Cup in quite a long time. They've been the darlings of the tournament in a lot of ways. The Dutch are a team that came in with expectation to make that jump to the elite level, and it's like in this tournament they have gotten to that point. They've gotten really close to that point. They haven't completely owned it yet. I feel like going into today, you had 4 contenders to lift the trophy. 2 of them played this afternoon. England and Germany are the other 2. The Dutch would be next. They're right there. And every time we think that they're ready to show that they are that team, I mean, this is the European champions, it's just not quite enough. What do you think it's going to be with them in Italy tomorrow? Italy they have nothing to worry about. Whatever they get out of this has been an amazing tournament for them. The Dutch have pressure, and they have to match that expectation.
Yeah, you're looking at a team in the Netherlands who was expected to just blow teams out of the water, right? You were looking at a team that had an incredible attack that you expected them to just shut teams out. And I feel like that team that we all expected, but a team that we expected to see blow other teams away and just haven't, I'm honestly looking at this game as being a really good opportunity for Italy. Come in, do not hold anything back. You've already made it further than anybody thought you would make it, honestly. This is a game where you have nothing to lose. And you're playing a team who, even though they are exceptionally good, have been shaky at times. And if we've seen anything from Italy, we know that they have every absolute ability to put a team on their back legs and on their back heels. And I feel like Italy can come into this match and really give the Netherlands a run for their money. And that's something I really want to see. And I feel like Italy has the ability to do this. And if we're talking about another game that's going to be really exciting to watch, this one is 100% it for me.
Yeah, I think it is too. I mean, the Dutch in the attack, they have the quality to really put the strong Italian defense on their back with Viviane Miedema and Lieke Martens. Martens is one of my favorite players to watch. She was the superstar in the round of 16 with 2 goals. Italy, though, is a team that is organized defensively, and they're good in the attack. And the Dutch defensively have been a little shaky at times. So this could be a lot of fun, and we talk styles make fights. These are 2 very different teams that should match up really well.
They should. They definitely should. And if we're looking at a game that we weren't expecting to be a real all-out brawl, and these quarterfinals, this is the game, right? So you're looking. No, sorry, not Reddit. I've lost on. There have been so many games, but this is a really good matchup, and I gotta tell you, I know that my friend Devin's gonna absolutely hate me that I say this, but I'm actually rooting for the underdogs on this. And even though they're not necessarily an underdog going into the game, I kind of want to see Italy win this. I really do. What a story that would be for that nation, right? For the women's game for Italy. And I know that you and John have talked about this on Soccer Down Here, and we've discussed this whole thing about how the women's game is improving in these areas. And obviously Europe is a big central place where there's been a lot of development and a lot of funding going into the women's game. But Italy hasn't been a real crux of it, right? So we've seen England be a crux of it, the Netherlands, Sweden, these big European big dogs in a way. And it feels like Italy on the women's game hasn't been in that talk. And we've discussed how Spain is just right there with everybody else as well. But it feels like Italy has a shot at this. If they just go in, hold themselves defensively against that attacking front of the Netherlands, they have a good shot to take this maybe to overtime, maybe to penalties. I mean, we're looking at an all-out brawl, and I'm excited.
All right. What's your prediction?
I don't know. So I know that it said it could go to overtime. I don't feel like it will, because I have a stinky suspicion. Maybe people aren't listening to me now because I said France was going to win the whole thing. But I have a stinky suspicion that Italy is going to pull out one of those stoppage time goals that they did early on. And I feel like it's going to end up being 2-1 Italy. I do. It's going to be a real wake up to the Netherlands, but I feel like it might happen.
Well, Nick Alifi will be your friend now. He won't be mine, because I think you're going to be wrong. I think it's going to go to extra time, and I think the Dutch end up winning 3-2 in one of the games of the tournament. This really should be a lot of fun, and I still don't know if we feel like the Dutch are ready to beat the Germans, but I think they have a shot in that game if that's what we end up getting to. Germany, I think, wins probably 2-0. That's where I'm going with on that one. So I think we're setting up semifinals next week of US-England, and for me, the Netherlands and Germany.
Okay, well, we'll see. I don't know if I see it, but I think, honestly, if we're looking at a fun game, Italy versus Germany. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, well, the Netherlands and Germany, as much as US-England have some history in these things, the Netherlands and Germany don't really like each other very much.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
So we could have a lot of fun with all kinds of historical tidbits going into these semifinals.
We absolutely could.
Man.
Either way, no matter how tomorrow pans out, it's just get ready for some good football.
Yeah, it's been a blast with this tournament. 2 more games tomorrow before we get to the semis, and look, I was right there with you on France. I don't think France ever got to the level that we expected them to get to in this tournament. They just never found it, and whether it was the pressure, whether it was the manager, which is one thing that a lot of the French media have said, whether it was players not living up to the hype. Le Sommet was reportedly injured and not 100%. For whatever reason, France was not the France that we expected to see in the tournament. The United States haven't been the United States we expected to see in the tournament. They've been better. And we'll see if they can find another gear to face an even better opponent in England on Tuesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let us know what you think. Tweet at us at SoccerDownHere. Tweet at us at Longshoe, at TheKellyFrancis, at JessicaATLUTD. And we'll be back on Sunday to recap the quarterfinals. Tomorrow, Atlanta United match after the final games. We're not going to be able to get a World Cup date out for you tomorrow. We will get you one on Sunday, and we'll preview the semifinals there. So thanks, everybody, for listening. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back on Sunday.
Pause, Jason. I gotta start my car. Hold on. I literally just bought a whole case of 6-pack beer. So hold on. Like while we were talking about all of this, I just went and bought beer. Nice. I'm going to a friend's house for the Colombian match, and it's already started. And people are yelling at me. So all right. So ready? Sorry.
It's all good.
You should just leave this all in, honestly.
I might.
So, yay, beer. But yeah, okay. So 3, 2, 1.